All right, we are going to learn about sidechain compression. So, sidechain compression is a technique that has become super popular in EDM music. Traditionally, or back in the day, it actually came from radio, where a voiceover, someone who was going to talk over some music, they needed that music to go down in volume. So, they used a compressor not to affect the voice per se, but to use the voice's input to then lower the volume of the music. So there are multiple uses in music production these days. In mixing, we use it sometimes for like the kick drum to drive the volume of a bass to go down so you can hear the kick drum a bit more clearly. This is kind of a good introduction to it because it's so obvious. So in any case, and we don't necessarily know exactly what compression is, but like Maxim, the idea of a compressor is that once a volume goes above a certain threshold, the compressor pushes down on that signal. It tries to limit the dynamic range, making the louder parts quieter, allowing the overall volume to be louder and more controlled. So in this case, in this instance, this is what we got. I have the chords being played by a pad or a synth, and I have my kick drum. Okay, so that's all we really need, and it's all we really want. When you're doing this could all change based on having all of these different instruments, the drums playing at once. It's really going to be most effective once you've already separated your drums. But just for the exercise, I'm going to insert, I'm going to do it in the mix window. I'm going to insert on my chords track on the synth. Underneath it, I'm going to insert a compressor from the dynamics category. The Dyne 3 compressor is the one that we all have access to. It's quite simple in its design and its effectiveness. And if I just press play, you can see that the volume of the synth is already getting compressed. It's already going over the threshold, which is fine. So now you can see it quite clearly. It's a very steady, because those chords are being held, it's just a very steady level of attenuation. Okay, so, but the idea here is that what we're going to do is we're going to use the kick drum and that rhythmic pattern to drive the compressor. Let's see if we can hear a volume difference. Yes, so it's doing exactly, you can hear exactly what it's doing. It's pushing down the volume of that pad by about 3 decibels. All right, so how are we going to get the drums, the kick drum, over to these chords? In our send of our drums, we're going to send it on a mono bus. In this instance, it's going to be bus 1. I'm going to bring that up to about 0. Okay, still not doing anything. This is going somewhere on the bus. We need to tell this compressor to look for that signal. We do that by coming over to this key input, and we tell the key input to look for bus 1. Still nothing happening. Right now, we need to tell the compressor to use the key input. All right, so this is kind of looking for the signal. And over here where it says sidechain, this is using the signal. So once I hit sidechain over here, you're going to start to see this be much more rhythmic based on the kick drum. You're also going to hear that pumping effect. Okay, so there's a few things about this. One, I'd like to get rid of the kick drum so I can really listen to the synth. And if I mute it, then that signal is no longer going there. But if you look at the floating fader, there's a button here called pre, which essentially separates this from the main fader of the channel. So I can mute the kick drum, and this is still going over to our compressor via the sidechain. And one thing that I'm noticing is I would like that, I like the attack of the compressor. It's going to work, but it's coming back up really, really quickly. So I'm going to increase the release. Okay, and it's very aggressive. I could raise the ratio actually, be even more aggressive. It'll turn it down even more. This might allow me to raise the threshold. Let's see, I'm going to go to 8. Yeah, I like that. All right, and that's sidechain compression.